Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Power Vacuum. I'm Belmont, and I'm coming at you with a review for episode 5 of Dune Prophecy. And, well, I guess I'll start with saying that the special effects seem like they're back on par with how they were in the first episode. They look great again. They don't look as bad as they did the last couple episodes. So I'm not sure in what order these were edited in because, the earlier edits are always going to have more special effects because they have more of a budget to blow. Or maybe they just had different teams do different sets of the effects. Like the effects that involve the humans might be an entirely different group of people than the ones that are like the cityscapes and the ships. But the effects are back on top. The acting seems to be on top, with the exception of the young girl Lila in this. Oh, and spoiler warnings, just giving you a heads up on that. But I don't know who the actress is, but the character Lila seems like she's trying to play different people in this with different personalities, and I feel like she isn't well versed enough in acting to pull it off. It feels like she's reading lines more than she is speaking them. Like if there was someone off screen or off camera holding up cue cards or holding up, cue cards to remind her of what she's supposed to say. That's kind of how her delivery feels. And other than that, most of the performances are pretty excellent. But the story's just getting whacked out. It's just so crazy. It's so wild. I really probably should read Brian Herbert's work if I wanted to understand how lore-breaking his work is versus how lore-breaking the show is. But this just seems like they don't care about the pre-established lore set up by Frank Herbert, and they're trying to reestablish their own new lore and their own new beginnings compared to what was already there. I have repeatedly said that I have never read any of Brian Herbert's work or Frank Herbert's son. It's not just another guy named Herbert. It's his son continuing the legacy. I've never read it. I've never been interested in it. I've read, I think, the first 5 books of Frank Herbert's. I've read the Cliff Notes version of the 6th book. I didn't care for the 4th and 5th book. I think the original Dune trilogy is great on its own, and I didn't really need much expansion. I watch a lot of lore videos about the Dune universe on YouTube constantly. I'm listening to this like my background when I'm doing like menial house chores. I'm like, let me throw some Dune lore on and listen to that and all that stuff. So there's some things in this that I recognize and things that I feel like they're retconning. And there's some story plot points that are super telegraphed. So like the big major twist in this episode is that Desmond is dun 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 a Harkonnen and Atreides bloodline member. His mother's Harkonnen, his father's Atreides. And I didn't call the Atreides part, but the minute they were like, oh, let's check his bloodline, I was like, watch this motherfucker be Harkonnen. And that's like the ultimate joke. And why he's clashing so hard with Valia is because it's two different, branches of the Harkonnen family tree, and the Harkonnens are so power hungry that they can't even get along with each other or like buff each other's plans. They have to basically get in the way of themselves, which is why their family is embroiled so heavily in civil war basically throughout the entire thing. Like even with like Frank Herbert's Dune, you have Fade and oh man, it's been so long. Shit, I just lost his name. It just left my brain. Radigan? No, what the fuck is that from? That's something else. Whatever. Their own family fights within each other. Like they fight themselves as much as they want to fight each other. In fact, when you read the books, Fade tries to kill his uncle, the Baron Harkonnen. Like he sends like a pleasure boy to his room with a poison needle hidden in his thigh. It's crazy. Like they definitely can't stand each other as much as they can't stand other families. And the whole Atreides thing was like, okay, I get it. So now it's like, all right, he's Tula's son. That's straight up established because Tula is the only Harkonnen that has bred with an Atreides at this point in history. And it feels like they're just rehashing Paul's story from the original Dune, because Paul is actually his mother is a Harkonnen and his father is an Atreides. Same exact thing. He goes to Dune or Arrakis and he gains powers that are beyond the understanding of the sisterhood, and he can do things that no one else can. And I'm like, oh man, so we're just ripping off Frank Herbert's works now, like straight up. And I get it, it was supposed to be Brian Herbert. I don't know if he put this stuff in the story. Like, is it straight from his stories? Is this a true adaptation? Or is this some Hollywood bullshit where they took the source material and shit, hit my table, and mixed it all up to fit the Hollywood narrative? I don't know. That's the main thing that happens in the story, is we find out that, and then about Desmond, and then you've got the Atreides that's actually like the sword master or the weapon master. I'm not sure what his official title is. He's like the chief of security for the Emperor. The Emperor of the Sun finds out he's a traitor, and he's the one that mapped like the throne room and the entire like palace. He finds the map because he just leaves it in his locker in the palace, unlocked, available for anyone. Like, dude, if you commit high treason, you should destroy all the evidence. And this guy is shown to be kind of smart, and that he's like thinking ahead, and he's making these plans, and he helps this lady escape that's running this ex-Fremen ex-sister. She's basically outcast from both societies, it seems. She was the one basically leading the rebellion, helping Valia with it, or using Valia as counsel, and was counsel to Valia, and vice versa, whatever. They were helping each other to build this uprising to make it seem like the Emperor's life was in danger, so the sisters could get back in his good graces. And he helped, the Atreides helps her, and it's just like, he seemed like he was being smart, but then he leaves damning evidence inside the palace in an unlocked locker. Like, what is wrong with you, dude? Why would you keep that around? Let alone leave it in the palace. Like, if you didn't want to destroy the evidence of your high treason, okay, fine. But why wouldn't it be kept somewhere else? Absolute bonkers convenience of plot kind of bullshit. Then they spring on that the son of the Emperor isn't the son of his current wife. I don't remember them mentioning that at all. Maybe it was one line of dialogue, but I don't think it was. I don't think it's been mentioned yet. It's just suddenly this sister shows up, and Mark Strong as the Emperor, being the fucking amazing actor he is, immediately, like, his demeanor changes, his facial expressions change. You can tell that his character loves this woman more than he loves his wife. This was clearly his first love, but she left him to be with the sisterhood, but only after she gave him a son. I don't know if she was like maybe the truth sayer to his father, and that's how he fell in love with her, or what. They haven't really given us any background on it. All I know is she shows up and she's like, I just want to speak to my son. Obviously, she was called by Valia to gain Sisterhood's position back in the palace and help them push their plans forward. She convinces the Emperor to make their son the head of the new war, uh, the Armada or whatever the army that they're gonna send to Arrakis to reclaim it from the Fremen. But she's like immediately like, I don't want to drive a wedge between you and your wife. That's not why I came here. And then 15 minutes into the episode, her and the Emperor are doing it. And I'm like, what happened to not wanting to drive a wedge between them? And then the Empress is like, oh, this going to the sun now, and it's taking away the power that I was going to gain. First and foremost, how do you know you were going to gain that? You've never mentioned this before. This is a new ambition that you suddenly had. Obviously, you've been power hungry. We get that. But you never expressed interest in wanting to lead the Armada. That just came out of nowhere, too. There's this episode dropped a bunch of revelations that were never built upon. They were just sudden revelations. I don't know if these episodes are filmed out of order, or if they were put out of, maybe there was a different order, or if there were parts that were cut out for runtime that might have explained these things. But it just felt like episode 5 was, surprise, here's a bunch of new shit that you didn't know about, and that is a major plot point. And now that instead of having 6 converging plot points, there's now 8 or 9, and we have 1 episode left, and that's literally what they're advertising it. 1 episode left. That's what the next ad break was. It was 1 more episode, and it was jarring. I was like, holy shit, how are they going to wrap all this up? It's nuts. It's frustrating, and I'm not happy with the way the story's going. I'm happy with the acting. I'm happy with the special effects. But the story and the plot, there seems to be no character development so far. All the characters seem to be just flatlined, monolithic characters. They don't have any growth. They are who they are, and they seem to be staying that way. And I don't know if this is indicative of just modern writing, where they don't know how to write character development, where they don't know how to show you things happening. They have to tell you them happening. They have to make characters state how they feel. They have to make characters tell you what they're thinking, tell you what their plan's in. They have to do something, and then another person has to say it to explain it to the audience, because I guess they don't have faith that the audience can figure things out for themselves. It's frustrating. It's just really frustrating. And then what was the other plot point? What is it? Lila has been possessed by the original Reverend Mother, and she's explaining that the powers that Desmond is using to kill people is a replication of the original machine virus, or the original virus that the machines released to wipe out humanity. And he somehow has a way to create that. And he knows about the eyes, as well as Lila knows about the eyes that people see in their dream. Well, not the people, that the Acolyte sisters are seeing in the Bene Gesserit Sisterhood. They're all having the same dream. Lila knows about it. Desmond seems to know about it. And it's... yeah. I mean, it's definitely better than the last episode. So, we're ticking up a little bit. But these massive plot holes and these, convergent storylines that... well, these storylines that are going to need to converge in order to tie them all up together, they're going to have to, come in all at once. Otherwise, the last episode's just going to be 8 mini episodes that explains each plot line and summarizes them or finalizes them on their own, instead of as a coherent story. So that's the basics of episode 5. It's getting wacky. It's getting where it's too much. Well, no, it's been wacky and there's too much. It's just they keep piling shit on without explaining previous shit. and these sudden revelations that characters are having and these sudden desires that they're explaining are just annoying and not a product of like well thought out writing. I really feel like they had originally planned this to be like 10, 13 episodes or something like a full season order, and then they got chopped down, so they had to just speed run it. And I'm not into it. If it weren't for like the beautiful like effects and the excellent acting by most of these people, I would have dipped out. Like, I would have dipped out on episode 4, but there's only 6 episodes. I'm gonna finish the series. Hopefully, they can like slap a big pretty bow on this, and I won't, be frustrated to all hell and back. But, ooh, it's rough right now. I'm just what's the point of these episodes? What's the point of these stories? What's the point of throwing all these like curveballs that never announced, never set up? There's no set off anymore. I guess that's the biggest problem. Like, cinema used to be set up and payoff. Shows used to be set up and payoff. Set something up, there would be a payoff. And this is either set up with no payoff or all off with no set. And I hope they can get it together. If not, I'm probably gonna be mid as fuck by the end, and figure out a way to read all this super succinctly, tightly. And like the last episode's gonna be 2 hours long, so they have to do all this shit. I just don't see it happening. I don't see it happening. They'll probably complain about another hour, but I'm gonna put it there because that's like the core of it. And I've gotten all the main major plot points out of the way that happened in this episode, and I've expressed my grievances, so that's all I have for this video. Belmont out.